They tell us Rome fell to barbarians, that it was inevitable, that history simply unfolded as it must, but the truth is far more insidious. Rome did not collapse because of swords or armies at its gates. Rome fell because of debt, corruption, and greed, because of a fatal mistake that no empire, no matter how mighty, can survive. And now in the modern world, America walks the same dangerous path, repeating the same errors, blind to the warnings of history. At its height, the Roman Empire stretched across continents, connecting the known world with roads, armies, and trade. Cities flourished, markets overflowed with wealth, and power radiated from the imperial capital as if the world itself bowed before it. Yet beneath this glittering surface, cracks were forming. Taxes rose to meet the growing demands of the empire. Soldiers demanded higher pay, and the cost of defending borders that stretched impossibly thin drained the treasury. To cover these expenses, Rome began to borrow. Loans flowed from foreign financiers, promises of repayment were made that could never be kept, and coins were minted recklessly, creating inflation that eroded the value of everyday savings. At first, the empire seemed invincible, but debt, like a silent predator, grew, promising short-term solutions while laying the groundwork for long-term destruction. Emperors continued to spend lavishly, funding wars, spectacles, and luxuries, all while ordinary citizens watched their wealth vanish. The gap between rich and poor widening dangerously, elites hoarding fortune and exploiting the failing system while the common people bore the brunt of taxation and devalued currency. Social unrest simmered. Trust in government, once unshakable, began to erode. Civil loyalty weakened, leaving the empire vulnerable from within. Rome's borders became impossible to defend, stretched across continents, while armies struggled under the weight of financial strain, internal decay preceding every external threat, silently weakening the foundation of a civilization that had once seemed eternal. Inflation consumed savings, civil unrest grew, corruption became systemic, lavish spending and overextension creating the dangerous illusion that the empire's power was limitless. And when the barbarians finally arrived, Rome was already broken, its walls unable to hold, legions unable to protect, people no longer trusting the institutions meant to safeguard them. The empire crumbled, not overnight, but from a slow, inevitable decay accelerated by addiction to debt and short-sighted leadership. History is clear. Debt destroys civilizations from the inside out. Yet centuries later, the same patterns are repeating. America, the modern superpower, faces staggering debt, unchecked spending, and a growing divide between rich and poor. Policies promising immediate power and comfort while ignoring long-term consequences. Inflation quietly eroding the purchasing power of ordinary citizens. The wealth gap widening as corporations and elites accumulate staggering fortunes, leaving ordinary people struggling to survive in a system increasingly favoring the powerful. Unnoticed, cracks form beneath society's feet, economic instability creeping in silently, imperceptibly, yet undeniably. History does not wait, it does not forgive. Rome's collapse was not a simple story of conquest lost. It was a cautionary tale of how financial mismanagement, greed, and ignorance can destroy even the mightiest civilizations. And now we stand at a crossroads. The same mistakes that felled an empire centuries ago are visible in modern society, yet ignored by those in power. Debt, inequality, and unchecked spending are not abstract concepts. They are seeds of destruction. The temptation to believe technology, modern institutions, or global influence make us immune to history's lessons is dangerous. No empire is immune. Debt weakens from within, corruption corrodes trust, inequality fractures society. The fall of Rome is a mirror of the present, a warning written in stone and blood, waiting to be recognized. Many continue blindly, captivated by the illusion of power and invincibility while foundations crumble. Every financial misstep, every ignored warning, every act of short-sightedness nudging society closer to collapse. Rome's lesson is timeless. Greatness is fragile, power is fleeting, debt is a weapon that strikes silently from within. America today must heed this warning, confront its growing debt, rising inequality, and unchecked spending with courage and foresight. for failure to do so will not be excused by armies, technology, or influence. The consequences will come, just as they came for Rome, relentless and unstoppable. The mistakes of the past could become the downfall of the present if ignored. Rome's final mistake was not building walls too thin or sending armies too far. It was turning a blind eye to its own decay. And now that same mistake threatens the modern world, proving once again that history is not merely a story, it is a warning, and it is up to us to learn before it is too late. As America stands at the pinnacle of its power, the shadow of Rome stretches across time, a haunting reminder of what happens when wealth is built on borrowed promises and short-term thinking. The warning signs are everywhere, yet often ignored. Staggering national debt that grows faster than the economy, endless spending to maintain appearances, and leaders chasing immediate approval while neglecting the foundations of stability. Just as Rome relied on conquest to fuel its coffers, modern society depends on unsustainable financial systems that enrich a few while leaving the many exposed to collapse. Inflation quietly gnaws at savings, social inequality widens, and citizens increasingly lose faith in the structures meant to protect them, creating a simmering tension that can erupt at any moment. Empires are not destroyed by chance. They are destroyed by their own hubris, by the collective blindness of those who believe power lasts forever and that money is limitless. Rome's citizens could not see the cracks until they became chasms, and the empire's leaders ignored warnings until it was too late. Today, we mirror that fatal arrogance, believing that technology, military strength, or global dominance can shield us from the same internal rot. Every dollar borrowed, every reckless financial decision, every policy favoring short-term gain over long-term stability is a chain tightening around the nation's foundation. The lessons of history are not optional. They are embedded in the rise and fall of civilizations. Yet humanity has a long record of repeating mistakes. As debt spirals, trust erodes, and inequality fractures society, the consequences grow invisible to the untrained eye. But they are real, inevitable, and relentless. What destroyed Rome was not sudden or external. It was gradual, internal, and preventable. A slow-motion unraveling that left the empire vulnerable to forces it once could have resisted. America, in its own pursuit of dominance and comfort, risks walking the same tightrope, ignoring the precarious balance between ambition and sustainability. The illusion of invincibility blinds societies to the subtle signals of collapse, to the whispers of history echoing across centuries, warning of the cost of ignoring debt, corruption, and inequality. Just as Rome's leaders banked on endless expansion and the loyalty of its people, modern leaders often rely on systems that cannot last indefinitely, fueling the illusion of security while the cracks widen beneath the surface. Every empire eventually confronts the consequences of its choices, and when internal decay becomes too great, external pressures exploit it ruthlessly. Rome fell not because it lacked armies, but because it had lost control of its own economy, society, and future. America may face a similar reckoning if lessons are ignored, if debt continues unchecked, if inequality continues to widen, and if the pursuit of power eclipses the responsibility to sustain civilization. History does not repeat itself blindly. It repeats itself when warnings are ignored, when the arrogance of the powerful blinds them to reality, and when ordinary citizens pay the price for decisions they cannot influence. The cracks are subtle, often invisible in daily life, yet they grow steadily, quietly shaping a future that could mirror Rome's tragic collapse. Every decision, every policy, every moment of complacency matters, and the next chapter of this story will reveal whether history's lesson is learned or if the pattern of decline continues silently, shaping the destiny of nations long before the consequences are fully visible.